You should be watching this video after you've watched the first video over the piecewise notes. So this is the project intro. Your project is going to be a test grade, and we will not have designated class days to work on the project. You'll be working on the project towards the end of classes as you have time, after you finish your homework, and after quizzes. Other than that, it will be all on your own time. So I would go ahead and schedule out some allotted time every day or every other day to work on this project. You'll be creating a picture in Desmos using your 8 parent functions. So here are our 8 parent functions. The last two, 7 and 8, we'll be starting to talk about those next class. And you can start using them in your project now. They will still use the same transformations as every other parent function. You must use each function at least once, and you must use transformations for all equations. And you have to describe your transformations that you use. You're restricting the domain and range, or sorry, just the domain for each function, just like we did in the notes, and then describe the portion of the picture that depicts each graph. So what I'm going to do is actually show you one that I've started. What you'll do is go to desmos.com, click on Start Graphing. Make sure that you sign in or create an account. You can sign in with Google, use your school email. I'm going to make sure that you have signed in. That way it will save your work. You don't want to be working for 30 minutes and then it will just all disappear if you don't save it. So if you notice at the top left, there's the 3 lines. So you're going to click on that menu, and then it has all of these graphs that I've worked on in the past. So I've already saved mine, titled Lucy Sky. I'm going to open that up. I started with a picture of my dog that I wanted to draw, just a profile, and I started working through some equations. I knew that I wanted to draw the back as a quadratic function, and I knew that I needed it to be a very wide parabola. So I took the quadratic function and I put 1 over 400. That gives me a vertical shrink or vertical compression by 400. So that makes it a shorter, wider parabola. I also knew I needed it to face downwards for the back. Notice the belly's facing up, so the downward parabola was a negative. And then I wanted it to be shifted up. Now I could have started this graph below the x-axis, above, to the right, to the left. It doesn't really matter where you start as long as you have transformations. And then on the right, notice this domain restriction. It has braces. So in Desmos, you don't need that semicolon or a comma. You're only going to use braces for your domain restrictions. And then you write it as an inequality. You can use less than, you can use less than or equal to. It won't matter too much on your graph which one you decide to use. In Desmos, right now I'm on my iPad, so I can zoom in and out just using the touch screen. On your computer, you can double click and it'll zoom in, and you can click and drag the mouse to move it around. There's ways to zoom. You can play around with it and you'll figure it all out. One thing I started to do was write out descriptions below each equation to say what it was. You don't have to do this, because a trick I found out is if I want to know, let's say the ear, where's the equation for the ear? If I click on the ear, it brings me right to that equation. If I want to know the equation for the belly and I click on the belly, it will bring me to that equation. So when you go to describe each equation, you can use this trick, click on the tail, and then there's the equation for the tail, and so on. I'm not done yet. I've spent probably about an hour on this. So it gets faster once you've started. It is a little bit slow at first, but once you get the hang of it, you'll start to see that it's not too bad once you realize where your transformations are and where different parts of your graph are. Okay, so this is just going to take some time to play around with, but notice how many equations this has, and it's not a super detailed graph or picture yet, so make sure you start with something pretty simple, and keep in mind that you have to use every single parent function. So far I have not used the cube root or the cubic function, but I have used all other functions. So you're going to want at least one of each one. You're going to have to print this out, so one way to do that is on the top right. There's this share button. You are going to need to share the link with me. So you'll copy the link and you're gonna have to make a QR code out of that link. We'll have a day in class where I allow y'all to do that, but just copy the link, go make a QR code. You can also do export image because you are gonna have to print out the image. So right now, see how my image is really tiny? I would definitely want to zoom in before I export the image. And it doesn't matter what option you pick here, but you're going to print it out. Now notice on the rubric or on the description of the project that you need color, but what you can do is you can actually print it out and color by hand. You can also color in the computer if you know how to do that, and you can use some inequalities to color on Desmos if you would like to do that as well. All right, so this step is only to enhance your picture and can only add color to it. So you're not adding details, just color. All right, look here at 4 steps of this process. So all of these things have to be turned in. A typed page including the equations and restrictions, the description of transformations, descriptions of what each graph represents in the picture. All right, you have to turn in your actual picture, so you're going to print that out and color it. Your Desmos link and a QR code. You have to have a QR code turned in. And then a copy of the rubric. You may use this page as the copy of your rubric because the rubric is on the back. So keep up with this page. If you don't, you're going to need to print out a new rubric. All right, and then the last part, this is due May 17th. Now, if you look at the calendar, that's actually an A day, but it is still due for you on this day. What I suggest is change this to say that it's due on May 16th. Plan on turning it in May 16th in class. Use the 17th as a buffer day just in case you forget your project on the 16th. If you forget it on the 17th or forget to turn it in, you will not be able to turn in a late grade, and this is for a test grade. So add it to your calendar now, set a reminder for the 15th to remind you to bring this project. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. I will still have my regular tutorials, so anytime you would like to work on this, I would suggest just coming into tutorials. You can work on it in the library. Wednesdays and Thursdays, Mrs. Salazar is in there, so you can ask her questions as well. Please let me know through email or next class if you have questions. All right, you may now move on to the third video, which will be the last page of the notes.